What's up, everybody? What is going on? This is Fred Richani of TSC News, here to recap WWE Monday Night Raw, July 18th, 2016, live on YouTube, also on iTunes and SoundCloud.com/TSC News. If you've been here before, you know the deal. Please feel free to like and share, spread the good word. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the show. I'm here to do the rapid recap. I'm here to recap Raw from top to bottom. It was a very noteworthy show, but we got a whole lot of newsworthy stuff to go. I mean, the WWE Draft is less than 24 hours away. Holy doodle squat. I had fam over. They passed by the TV when Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon were arguing and just kind of shook their heads. And at first, I was shaking my head because I thought, oh, God, this is a bad omen for this Raw. We got Stephanie arguing. We got Shane arguing. Are we going to get to the GMs? Are we going to get to the big news? Are we going to get to the draft updates? And eventually, we did. And this Raw, I'd say, was decent, albeit head-scratching. And believe me, WWE is in a true transitional period because they thought that John Cena was going to be the pillar of SmackDown. They thought John Cena was going to be the man that carries the SmackDown brand, but as his schedule outside of the ring grows and grows, his house shows, his appearances on non-televised events are starting to dwindle. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with SmackDown, but we found out a little bit of what they've got planned. First of all, let's get to the main event because a lot of people are blowing up my phone about that. My boy Ben Ostner just texted me saying, what kind of finish was that? Well, Ben, let me tell you. We had Rollins versus Ambrose. Ambrose dominated early on. Rollins fired back. There were some really good exchanges here and some dangerous spots. I'm not the biggest fan of Rollins' buckle bomb, and he hit that buckle bomb on Ambrose, on the barricade, and on the turnbuckles here. And towards the end, buckle bomb. But then Ambrose hit the dirty deeds. But somehow, Seth Rollins survived. Had a lot of nice near falls. Ambrose then got in Foley's face on the outside. Oops, minor spoiler alert. He got in Mick Foley's face, who was named the new Raw General Manager. Daniel Bryan named the new SmackDown General Manager. And he said, look at this. Essentially saying, this is why I should be your top pick. He teased an announce table spot. Failed when Seth got away. Rollins and Ambrose battled on the apron. Seth teased the pedigree. Ambrose clotheslined Rollins in the ring. He went for his standing elbow drop spot, but Seth kicked him, hit the pedigree, and Dean Ambrose kicked out, which proves that Dean Ambrose can kick out of Seth's pedigree, but not Triple H's. Clearly, Rollins is doing something wrong with that pedigree. Maybe he's got to put a little more stake on it, as Stone Cold Steve Austin once said. So, kick out by Ambrose. Crowd was going nuts. Crowd even chanted, holy bleep, holy bleep. Well, they chanted the other word, but we'll keep it a little PG here. So, Rollins went for another pedigree. It was reversed into a pin, but Rollins kicked out. And at this point, I'm going, all right, we're either going to have a clean finish or there's going to be something screwy that's going to happen. And unfortunately, the latter occurred. You see, we had the loop-de-doo lariat, wherever the hell Ambrose calls that, where he bounces from the ropes and then clothesline Seth. Then Rollins decided to go for a superplex. He stopped Ambrose from going for whatever top rope maneuver he was going for. Easy for me to say. Tongue-tied tonight. So Rollins got pushed off. He fell onto the ref. That looked like it sucked for the ref. Rollins is a pretty big guy. Then Rollins went back for the superplex. Hit it. It looked like both men's shoulders were down. It looked like Dean was trying to come up with some pinning combination from the bottom. Ref counted one, counted 2, counted 3, and this got over. I don't want to use the cliche like a fart in church. I want to try to use a better cliche than that. This got over. Oh man, I'm trying to think. I can't think of a good analogy. This got over like Chachi at the Republican National Convention. Actually, I think he may have actually gotten over, which is pretty scary. So, all right, that's a bad example. Whatever. All right, this is like bringing, I don't know, John McCain to a rave or something. All right, it just doesn't make any sense. And this was just bizarre. A lot of confusion. Everybody standing around going, "What the hell happened?" The ref seemed like he was kind of blinded. He just blindly counted 3. So hang on a second. Let me adjust my headphones here. Hang on. So you're knocked out. You're dazed and confused. You don't know where the hell you are, but you have some magical referee spidey sense, maybe secretly Spider-Man, and you were, or like Daredevil. In Daredevil, even though he's blind, he can still sense things. Maybe he could feel the body heat. He sensed, hey, I got to count the 3. Even though I can't see a damn thing. What? So, Shane got in the ring. Bryan got in the ring. Foley got in the ring. Steph got in the ring. Referee's still in the ring. Ambrose and Rollins are confused in the ring. Stephanie hugs Seth. She takes the title. Says, "Your new WWE Champion, Seth Rollins." Rollins' music hits. He's celebrating. And Shane, ever the leader, just kind of stands there and goes, "It was an awesome match. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And of course, he's sweating bullets. I have no idea what this guy is taking to get in the shape he's in. And I'm not saying he's taking anything illegal or anything. I'm not sure what type of material he's wearing, but this dude sweats more than Ric Flair. It's kind of creepy. Okay, I love Shane O'Mac, but take it easy, man. Take it easy. You look like you just played a game or two with Michael Jordan. I mean, Jesus, he's just soaked. And he's just standing there, and Ambrose is pissed off, and all I can think is, for the love of God, please do not let this be the end of Dean Ambrose's title reign. It cannot end like this. It just cannot. Okay, he's already kind of a lame duck champion because he's gotten beaten so many times over the year, but to lose this way, what I think is going to happen tomorrow night on SmackDown Live is they're going to create a new title, perhaps for SmackDown, and they're going to put Dean Ambrose in a tournament for it. I could be wrong, or they're going to reverse the decision and also announce the creation, or the recreation, I guess, of the World Heavyweight Championship. Why they can't just call one the Raw Championship and the SmackDown Championship, I really don't know. Because it's kind of confusing. So this is the WWE title, but you called it the WWE World Heavyweight title, but now that title is going to be the World Heavyweight title, and this is just the WWE title. See the confusion? I think so. So yeah, it was kind of a whack ending. The match got really good at the end, but I get it. It set something up bigger for SmackDown. It makes SmackDown must-see, well, more must-see than it already is, and they want a big rating. That makes sense. And then, of course, you got Battleground and next week's Raw, which should have some intrigue as well, as it'll be the first Raw after the brand extension draft. Now, here's what I don't like about the draft, and I talked about this before in a video blog last night. The draft is as follows in terms of the rules. Each brand, well, I think both brands get 6 NXT picks. So whoever picks, some NXT guy, another person can pick an NXT guy. So if Stephanie wants Samoa Joe, Shane McMahon can pick Finn Balor. So there's 6, from what I understand, it's 6 picks total, not 6 picks for each brand. That's what I understand. Also, because Raw is 3 hours, Raw gets 3 picks for every 2 picks SmackDown gets. And Raw gets the first pick. Now, there was some lame duck explanation at the beginning of the show when Shane and Stephanie came out and they were bantering back and forth. They mentioned pretty much that Shane McMahon is the underdog here, and that because Stephanie is daddy's little girl, of course she gets the first pick, but that's okay because he has a great underdog general manager. Stephanie introduced Mick Foley, who had a really gray beard, and it was kind of sad to see Foley. He was better later in the night, but when he came out, he just looked kind of lost. I don't know if he had a bad day, if he was tired, didn't get a lot of sleep, maybe had a bad flight, whatever. But Mick Foley who's normally a damn great promo guy, forgot his lines. Stephanie had to essentially say to him, whatever the hell she said. It was something audible, but she said it to him, and he repeated his line. He compared Raw versus SmackDown to the Monday Night Wars. Here's a hint. It's not. And yeah, talked about that. Talked about, caring about the fans and giving them what they want and blah, blah, blah. The most notable thing of this up to this point was that Stephanie announced that there will be the return of the Cruiserweight division, but it'll return to WWE on Monday Night Raw. For any longtime fans, you may remember that the Cruiserweight division used to be exclusive to SmackDown. I think that's a smart move. Get some hardcore fans to actually stay tuned for Raw, actually stay watching Raw, get some kick-ass athletic matches. We even had JBL shout out Cedric Alexander and Kota Ibushi from the Cruiserweight Classic. 2016 is weird, man. Just weird. So, we had Shane McMahon talk about being an underdog, saying he picked a guy that knows how to overcome the odds. And what do you have it? It was Daniel Bryan. The Providence, Rhode Island crowd went absolutely nuts. I almost had a tear in my eye because I was just like, man, that's such a great, great ovation. They chanted, yes. They chanted Daniel Bryan nonstop. They chanted, thank you, Daniel. And I was getting all sentimental. I miss Daniel Bryan, and I know he was getting sentimental too, but he sucked it up. He did all right. He cut a very passionate promo, talked about how he overcame the Authority at WrestleMania 30, and when he's GM of SmackDown, he is going to overcome the Authority once again and make SmackDown great. I sure hope so, because so far they've made SmackDown look like the blue-headed stepchild yet again. But I'll tell you this, if they have Morrow, and if they have Jerry Lawler, and say if they knock on wood, call up Corey Graves, they're going to already have the better... Well, they already now have the better announced team, and they'll have the better announced team after Tuesday. And on top of that, it's a 2-hour show. On top of that, you have Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan as authority figures, two extremely likable dudes that WWE fans love. And on top of that, you're going to have a bunch of new talent. And should I mention, it's only 2 hours. So that's going to be one hell of an easy show to watch, in my humble opinion. Especially now because it's live and you don't have to check out spoilers. And I didn't think there was really anything wrong with spoilers. They didn't really affect the ratings at all. But it's going to be more exciting for sure. It's going to be more exciting, and we'll be able to see live before our very eyes in real time whether or not things suck, are great, or are somewhere in the middle. But yeah, Foley's promo, not so great. A rare flub by the great one. And Daniel Bryan, he was awesome. We had Cedric Alexander, jeez. We had Cesaro. By the way, Cedric Alexander was awesome at the CWC. And I heard he actually had a great match, I believe, with Kota Ibushi, which hasn't aired yet. And in fact, I think he may have already been signed. Him and Kota may have already been signed. If they were mentioned tonight on Raw, I like to assume that they are all but officially signed. But we shall see. Both guys definitely belong there, that's for sure. Cesaro and Sami Zayn beat Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Zayn pinned Jericho. Darren Young pinned Alberto Del Rio with a backbridge roll-up. Darren Young trying to be great again. I never knew Darren Young was great in the first place. I always thought he was decent, but great? Guess that's part of the gimmick, but he's gaining confidence. Bob Backlund's very happy with him, and he will challenge The Miz this Sunday for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. We had the Club and the Wyatt family defeat John Cena, Enzo Amore, Big Cass, and The New Day in a wild 12-man tag match. There was miscommunication with John Cena and Enzo Amore. Enzo went to strike AJ. He hit Cena instead, and AJ hit the Styles Clash for the pin. Before this match, we had a little bit of verbal jabbing. John Cena trying to understand what the hell Enzo is saying with the how you doings and all his insults and everything. He was kind of going a little fast. I thought he could slow down a bit, but he's Enzo Amore, and he's always bringing the energy. And then New Day came out, talked about Pokemon Go, talked about how they were level 21. Well, Xavier Woods is level 21 anyway. And then he talked about how he would greet all the Pokemon. So Arbok, how you doing? Pikachu, how you doing? Raichu, how you... This went on and on and on and on. Wyatt's interrupted. They had the match. This was all right for what it was. I don't know if it was overkill. to some fans, or it will be overkill, because you got to remember, Cass, Enzo, and Cena are taking on the Club in a 6-man tag. And then Wyatt and New Day are wrestling on Sunday in a 6-man tag. So, a little too tag happy. I did see New Day versus Wyatt's live at MSG. It was okay. Nothing spectacular, but it also was a house show. At the same time, at MSG, I saw Cena and AJ Styles have a pay-per-view, dare I say, SummerSlam WrestleMania caliber match, which saw Cena get the win at the end. It was a great, great match. And while I love Dean Ambrose and I love Seth Rollins and I like Reigns' work, and I know Reigns is coming back on Sunday, Cena versus AJ, to me, if you take away Enzo and Cass and the New Day and you just focus on these two guys, that feels like the real main event program of Raw or SmackDown, for that matter, of the entire company. Not so much the title picture. And who knows? Maybe those two will be in the title picture, and maybe one of them will be crowned the new SmackDown champion. I would hate to see Cena and AJ Styles separated. I think they're having a great feud. I think they'd have a great, great match at SummerSlam. If fans get anything like what I saw at MSG, I mean, we kind of did at Money in the Bank, but I actually thought this match was better than their Money in the Bank match. If we get anything like what I saw at MSG, whew, let me tell you, you fans are in for a real treat. Baron Corbin beat Sin Cara. What wonderful promotion for the Cruiserweight division. Baron Corbin beating Sin Cara. Yeah. We had a hype video for Randy Orton, which was very well done. And he will be appearing at Battleground on Chris Jericho's Highlight Reel talk show. And they confirmed that Orton versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam is still happening, despite Brock Lesnar failing a USADA test. So he may get suspended for 2 years in MMA, but he will still be able to wrestle in WWE. Now, some states, like Kentucky, may be a little complicated. I know Kentucky, I believe, still licenses wrestlers, or at least is a little more hands-on with wrestlers beyond the promoter aspect of wrestling. I don't think New York is. New York, in a quote to WrestlingInc.com, essentially confirmed, hey, we really can't stop Lesnar from wrestling. You know, we license promoters, but we really can't stop Lesnar from wrestling no matter what happens with the Nevada Athletic Commission and USADA. So Lesnar dodged a bullet there, but come next year, if he does have a 2-year suspension, good God almighty, there goes his contract leverage. And still, public relations-wise, it does not look good for WWE. It does not look good for UFC. And it sure as hell doesn't look good for 2K, with him being on the cover of WWE 2K17. Who the hell knows? Maybe they'll punish him and have Randy Orton beat him, which I wouldn't do personally. If you're going to, quote-unquote, punish Brock Lesnar or decide that after his failure that this is the time to beat him, I would wait a little bit, have him beat Orton, make it maybe a little bit more competitive than it would have been before the failure, and then have him lose to, say, I don't know, whoever you want to put over, Rollins, Ambrose. I guess you could do Reigns pinning Lesnar to get his redemption, but that's going to flop. But, again, you could do one of those guys. You could bring in Samoa Joe. You could bring in Kevin Owens. Or you already have Kevin Owens, but you could put Kevin Owens in that feud. Whatever. Just find a guy that you really want to push, preferably that's not Roman Reigns, who hasn't gotten over to that level, and have them eventually beat Brock Lesnar. I mean, his contract's expiring. Might as well do it, right? I mean, he embarrassed the company. He failed the test. What do you expect? I'm sure he's going to have some type of defense, but he failed the test. We had Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch beat Charlotte and Dana Brooke via disqualification. Natalya interfered and attacked Becky Lynch. I don't know if their match is official at Battleground, but I'm assuming it's going to take place. Natty versus Becky. It is bizarre, though, because we had Sasha versus Becky, or Sasha and Becky versus Charlotte and Dana. And at the pay-per-view, we have Charlotte and Dana versus Sasha and a partner of her choosing. But she already technically chose Becky in this match. Why did they even book this match? I know it's predetermined, and they booked it so Natty could interfere, so we saved the real tag team match on Sunday, but in storyline, this made absolutely no sense. And afterwards, Sasha Banks got attacked by Charlotte, Dana Brooke, and what can I say about Dana Brooke? Not ready for prime time. I liked her in NXT. She was protected in NXT. I don't even mind her really in the main roster. The problem is they have not called up enough women. There are a lot of really talented women in NXT, and they haven't called enough of them up. And frankly, they've kind of called some of the wrong ones up. I mean, they called up Dana Brooke before Bayley. God forbid they call up Nia Jax before Bayley. Oh, man. And I like Nia Jax, but she, Bayley needs to be there. Hopefully, Bayley will debut on Sunday. She deserves it, and she's got great appeal. I don't expect her to do well on the main roster, just because I don't know if Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn can get what the Bayley character is supposed to be. And obviously, she doesn't look like Dana Brooke or Charlotte, although she's a pretty girl herself, but she's not the typical WWE mold. I don't know. I'm worried for Bayley. Hopefully, she at least gets called up and gets to make some main roster money, but this made no sense. Dana, no chemistry with Charlotte. They're like the Lana and Dolph Ziggler, only a female version, or Ted DiBiase and Maurice. Just no chemistry between the two. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they're both blonde, both kind of athletic, both have big muscles, both have rather large assets. I don't know what it is, but whatever Dana has with Emma, she sure as hell does not have with Charlotte at all. We also really don't know anything about Dana Brooke. We knew that she was Emma's BFF, but we don't know anything else. We don't know about her fitness competitions. We don't know that she called herself the Total Diva in NXT. I don't think I've ever seen any NXT highlights played on Raw or SmackDown of Dana Brooke whatsoever. But we're expected to care about her. And that's actually what I'm kind of afraid of with these NXT picks. Even Nakamura, who I think could get over night one on the main roster. Just bring him in, assume a bunch of people know who they are, and that's it. No, I'm sorry. Just no. Now, there's a precedent set. They did bring in AJ Styles, and AJ Styles got over his first night in. But in regards to AJ Styles, I think, I don't know. I guess technically, AJ Styles was known by as many people as, say, Nakamura would be known by, or Finn Balor. But even then, I'd say maybe not. Because you might know Finn Balor if you don't watch NXT from the WWE 2K16 video game. But if you haven't watched New Japan, if you don't really watch the network, or if you do, you just don't watch NXT, maybe you heard the name, but do you really care for him? At least with AJ Styles, I think there's one thing that can't be underestimated. Is that he was on TV for over a decade, and a majority of that time he was on Spike TV. And say what you want about TNA, but they did 1 million+ viewers for quite a while. For a good, 8-9 years before they got canceled by Spike TV? So AJ Styles had quite a bit of exposure there. He was in pay-per-view main events there. He headlined house shows there. And then he was a star in Ring of Honor as well. And that was way before going to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I don't think we could underestimate the TNA aspect of things. Same thing with Samoa Joe. I think, you know what? Samoa Joe, if he got drafted, okay, I think the guy could get over his first night, get a good pop and everything else. Nakamura, I think because of his aura and how he acts and his it factor, probably could. Balor, all depends with Balor. I mean, he has a cool entrance and everything. If you had him do the demon entrance, I think he might certainly make an impression. But I don't know. They need to have some vignettes for these guys. Look, even if they draft him and they debut on SmackDown, they need to at least show some video packages over the course of these few weeks and after the draft and show who these guys really are. Seriously. Show a video package of Bayley and the impact she's made on kids. Show a video package of Nia Jax squashing chicks. Show a video package of Samoa Joe kicking ass. Same thing with Nakamura. All these dudes. Finn Balor. They had some great vignettes. They did a Finn Balor before he won the NXT title last year. Like, do stuff like that. Okay? For every Kevin Owens and AJ Styles and a few other guys that can get over their first night in, there are other guys that need a little bit of help. And you know what? Even if they can get over their first night in, you have a bunch of TV time. Why not make the most out of it? And why not do some human interest pieces, as my friend Les Thatcher likes to say, and just showcase them a little bit in a different light? Is there something wrong with that? Look at the Cruiserweight Classic on the WWE Network. It's very reminiscent of what UFC's been doing for years, although I think they do it more generically, or what Bellator MMA has been doing for many years that I've praised on this show multiple times. Before every fight, short but somewhat in-depth video package of one fighter, and then the other fighter, and then they fight, and then guess what? You kind of, sort of, perhaps, especially if the fight's entertaining, get emotionally invested. But I just feel like they're just going to bring him out there and say, oh, it's Nakamura. And while he might get a big pop and everything, and he may get over anyway, it would help to introduce these guys the right way. I don't think they'll do that. And anyway, where was I? Oh, we had U.S. champion Rusev and Sheamus beat Ziggler and Ryder. Rusev tapped out Ziggler. Ryder's got no momentum going into this title match. He beat ADR last week, but he also lost to Sheamus, and he lost to ADR at MSG. Yes, they beat Ryder in New York. Go figure. Go figure. And we had a backstage confrontation with Foley and Bryan. They complimented each other. They talked about how they were very similar, and not thinking about it, their careers were very similar. Two guys that broke the mold, changed the business forever, and were not supposed to be world champion in the eyes of those in power, and they still got over and got to the top anyway. And they just said, look, this means war, and may the best man win, and they shook hands, and that was that. So overall, a very noteworthy Monday Night Raw. That's for sure. Very noteworthy, but kind of confusing. So what I'm going to do right now is go to the glasses, and we are going to answer a few questions. So let's see what people have to ask. John Pictures, did Seth Rollins win? According to Stephanie, he did, but in the eyes of many WWE fans, he did not. Okay, Randy is rumored to feud with AJ after SummerSlam. I haven't heard that, but I would totally welcome that. Calling it now, Nia Jax will replace Dana Brooke as Charlotte's muscle after Charlotte loses the title. Jeremy Bowers, I like that. You know what? That makes more sense than Dana Brooke, because Dana Brooke right now is the worst bodyguard since Tamina Snuka and Jackson Andrews, and that's pretty damn bad. You know why? Because she always loses. Do you think WWE 2K17 will change the cover? That's tough. I mean, they already have all that marketing and planned out and everything. But I work in advertising, and we plan out campaigns months and months ahead of time, especially for our clients that have a lot of money behind them. And 2K, WWE 2K, that has a lot of money behind it. Can they do it? Yes. But it's going to be a huge pain in the ass if they have to. Hopefully for their sake they won't have to, but maybe they'll feel the need to. They already put out the press release. I mean, it'd be kind of awkward if they did. Let's see. Do you miss Roman Reigns? I got to say, while I think his in-ring work is very good, I really haven't missed him. I'm just being honest. I got nothing against the guy personally. Look, he owned up to it. He did his punishment, but I really haven't missed him, no. At least this current incarnation of his character. If he comes back as a badass heel, I welcome him with open arms, but I really don't miss him right now. Not saying I don't want to see him back. I just don't miss him. Do you think that 2K is kind of ripping off people by making them pay $99.99 for the collector's edition so you could get Nakamura and a few other NXT stars like Apollo Crews? Well, yes and no. I know you get a few goodies with that collector's edition. Put it this way. If you can't purchase Nakamura and Apollo Crews and some of these other guys individually after launch, then yeah, I think that's not a cool move. But if it's just a bonus for now, hey, whatever. Be my guest. But yeah, I don't know. No, not the biggest fan of that. That's for sure. I'm not the biggest fan of first day DLC, and I'm not the biggest fan of pre-ordering games, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I mean, technically that is first day DLC. I mean, it gives you access to them. I'm assuming you get immediate access to them. Not really feeling it, but I believe there's only limited copies anyway. I think they send the press release 50,000 copies total. So if you're a collector, might as well cop it. I mean, hey, I've spent money on silly things before too. I got stacks and stacks of DVDs that I still own. Little did I know that 10 years later, there'd be a thing called WWE Network that would make them obsolete. But hey, they're a nice little collector's thing, I guess, right? Also, I've spent so much money in video games. I can't really lecture anybody if they want to spend $100 on WWE 2K16. I mean, seriously, I have gotten how many games I have in my Steam library right here. 200 games in my Steam library right now. And that doesn't count my over 100 games on my Xbox One, my 100 games on Xbox 360, and my nearly 200 games on PS4. And that's not counting my N64 or my Sony PlayStation or my Game Boy Advance that still work. So perhaps I'm the wrong guy to ask about buying a lot of video games. Okay, how do you think Triple H will come back? Well, Michael, I could see Triple H coming back in a scenario that was kind of laid out by Zach McGibby online. Now, Zach mentioned that he thought Triple H would come out tonight. That didn't happen. But I could see Triple H maybe interfering at Battleground, setting up Roman Reigns versus Triple H at SummerSlam. And while I have really no desire to see a rematch, I do think that if they keep it short and sweet, or keep it 15-20 minutes max, and it's not the very, very last match, and SummerSlam doesn't run long, I really do think that those guys could have one hell of a match. But WrestleMania, for whatever reason, it just did not click. But now thinking about it, if you want to do something with Triple H and Roman Reigns, perhaps it makes sense to save it for Hell in a Cell. I mean, Hell in a Cell is meant for blood feuds, and Triple H versus Roman Reigns was indeed a blood feud. Now, if you want Triple H to turn on Seth, which is what Zach also suggested, you could do that, but I would hold it off until WrestleMania if you can. If you can. Although, you got to remember, they're going to be doing multiple pay-per-views. 2 pay-per-views per month. Good God almighty. 2 pay-per-views per month, except for months that have Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, those big pay-per-views that would be dual branded. So perhaps they have their sights set on Rollins versus Triple H at WrestleMania. Whether or not they're patient enough to get there, and whether or not the crowd allows Seth to remain a heel, that remains to be seen. Okay, do you know if Dean's getting his title back on the network? No, I do not at the moment. Let's see. Why did they give the title back to Ambrose on the network and not on TV? Some people... Wait, really? They gave Dean the title back on the network? Really? Okay, that's really, really weird. Let me look that up while I answer some more questions. Do you see a future for Bray Wyatt if he's split up from the Wyatt family again? No, not a bright future unless he's turned babyface, because he really... Okay. Dean Ambrose is still the WWE champion. The decision was announced on the network after Raw. Okay. I guess I'll have to make an annotation after this live broadcast. Why not do it on Raw? Or save it on SmackDown? They didn't even hype the Raw Fallout show. That's dumb. Well, I'm happy Dean retains the title, but that's still stupid. Anyway, I think if Bray doesn't turn babyface if he's split up from the Wyatt family, I think it's going to be bad news for him. Okay. All right. What do you think about Stephanie McMahon saying that her lady balls are bigger than Shane McMahon's balls? I thought it was gross, and I actually heard that might be the title of her autobiography coming out in September. Which, if that's the case, that's not really PG, and it doesn't really roll off the tongue. No pun intended. What is your WWE 2K wish list? Primetime asks. I would love to see backstage brawling again. I would like to see more than 6 competitors in a ring. I would like to see multiple competitors in the ring without it glitching like hell. I would like to see more intelligent AI that doesn't do things that are stupid. I would like to hear better commentary. I'd like to hear multiple commentary tracks, not just from Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler and then Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler and JBL, but hell, throw in Byron Saxton, throw in Corey Graves, William Regal, whatever. Maybe I have the option to pick multiple commentary teams. Maybe you don't want to listen to Cole and Lawler, you want to listen to Morrow and Lawler. Maybe you don't want to listen to JBL and Cole, you want to listen to, Corey Graves and Tom Phillips. Have them record the same voice tracks, essentially. Maybe have a few liners that pertain to them, that are specific to them and their TV characters, and be able to switch to commentary tracks. That's what I would do. But, man, JBL doesn't even sound like JBL in WWE 2K16. This is one hell of a fight. And what a great maneuver. He is still champion. I don't know if JBL just got like 1 hour of sleep. I don't know if they recorded JBL's voice track after he climbed another mountain in Bermuda. But my God, it sounds like the most depressed, tired, unenthusiastic JBL you have ever heard. Give me the JBL with the bad jokes over the dead JBL any freaking day. As far as anything else, maybe just expand community creations a little bit more. You know, have more of a real face scanning feature, which I know they kind of sort of do already, but kind of refine it, improve it. I would say try to include some content from past WWE 2K games and other WWE games. I know we've already had an Attitude Era mode and a WrestleMania mode and all that jazz, but if you could somehow incorporate elements of different eras in one game as opposed to making it themed every freaking year, I think it'd be kind of cool. And, I would say maybe kind of do something with, like in what NBA 2K does, they have these legendary teams you could play against. Obviously, in wrestling, you don't really have like a legendary basketball team of like 12 people or anything like that, or a stable of 12 people, but maybe instead of being able to edit the rosters for Universe mode, which you can do already, also have the option to customize it. So kind of like in Total Extreme Wrestling, which is like a promoting simulator, kind of have like a 1998 Attitude Era roster, right? Which is just primarily Attitude Era guys, or a Rockin' Wrestling roster. And also, and I guess this would be kind of tough because it's not PC, but, and I guess there's already kind of a modding community with community creations, but find a way to expand the modding. You know what I mean? Like have like a roster you could specifically download to your Universe mode and then kind of play that through. That'd be kind of cool. And it would be kind of stealing a page from TEW, but they've already kind of stolen a few pages from TEW and kind of put it together in live action form. So that's what I would like to see. And I would like to see the submission system be improved. Maybe just keep it simple. On the Xbox 360 version, it's still the breaking point where you just have to tap the buttons. Sometimes less is more. I think with WWE and especially EA UFC, which is a game I really enjoy as well, they overcomplicate the submission system. EA UFC, I think, is a little more straightforward once you get the hang of it, but I still, even though I've gotten pretty good at the game, try to avoid the submissions because I'm a lot better at striking in that game and take down. And if I do take somebody down, usually it's me posturing up and going for ground and pound. What are they going to do with the tag titles? That's a good question. I guess we'll find out. 2 Trill for Life 1 says Stephanie McMahon is fine as hell, and I will retort by saying Triple H is one lucky man. Who is the best looking diva of all time? That's a silly question. It's subjective. There's been a lot of beautiful women that have come through in WWE, so I'm not going to limit that to just one. There's a lot of beautiful women and a lot of talented women that have come through WWE, and a lot of not so talented women. Who is your favorite wrestler? My favorite wrestler, that's a good question. Of all time or currently? Of all time, I mean, the 2 dudes I originally got into wrestling because of are Goldberg and Steve Austin. I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. I loved Sting as well growing up. Loved Diamond Dallas Page because he was from New Jersey. They announced from the Jersey Shore, and I'm from an area that's near the Jersey Shore, and I was all pumped up. And now he's a good friend of mine these days, which is kind of cool. The Rock, I later grew to appreciate, but at the time when I was a kid, I was such a hardcore Steve Austin fan. I was actually, at one point, a bigger Triple H fan than I was a Rock fan because I kind of favored the heels and the badasses. And while I liked The Rock and everything, I don't know, I just favored Steve Austin and Triple H more. I was a big mark for the 2-man power trip. Later in my life, I'd probably say as a teenager, once those guys kind of retired, besides Triple H, really liked John Cena in his early days. You know, I've always been a fan of Cena's work, but I really liked his character in the early days. I thought he was super cool as that rapper. Let's see. Eddie Guerrero, I loved. Used to watch him with my dad all the time. Thursday nights on Smackdown. A lot of good memories watching Eddie Guerrero. And yeah, Daniel Bryan. I loved this whole Daniel Bryan era. So I mean, I guess it wasn't really a Daniel Bryan era, but the Daniel Bryan run that he had the last 6 years was really some great stuff, and he developed such an emotional connection with me and so many fans, and you could tell by the reaction he got tonight. I mean, the fans just love him. He is really, I'd say, the modern-day Mick Foley in some ways. He's just a guy that's so beloved and got over, despite, management not wanting him to really get over to a certain level. So, love Daniel Bryan. As far as current wrestlers, that's a really good question. Current wrestlers, maybe AJ Styles. I'd say maybe AJ Styles. I really like Kevin Owens. I'm a big fan of Dean Ambrose, even though I think Dean Ambrose has been just used and abused time and time again. Although I'm happy he's got this title run. I like Seth. I like a lot of the guys. I don't know if there's one guy I really like more than everybody else. You know what? Maybe AJ Styles. If I had to pick one wrestler that I really like, that I'll watch no matter what, I'd probably say AJ Styles. As far as my favorite act, it's probably the Club or the New Day. But really, I think this year, in the last couple of years, I've just kind of appreciated more guys. You know what I mean? Like, after Daniel Bryan retired and you kind of saw the writing on the wall before he made his official announcement, for me, it was kind of like, all right, Punk's gone. Bryan's pretty much gone. Let me just kind of enjoy wrestling. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anybody I found that I have an emotional connection with like I had with Daniel Bryan. And obviously, there's nobody at the level of Rock and Steve Austin these days and everything. So I guess for me, it's AJ Styles and just trying to enjoy a lot of the great wrestlers out there right now. I watched the Dragon Lee and Kamitachi match, which was just freaking awesome, that the Cubs fan on YouTube uploaded. That was a lot of fun, although some of the back bumps that both those guys took, especially Kamitachi, were not really fun. I loved watching Will Ospreay tear it up, although I think he's got to be a little bit smarter on social media. Ricochet is freaking great. There's a lot of great wrestling out there. I think my main complaint, besides the creative direction of certain promotions like WWE at times and TNA, although I think they've been doing pretty well lately, creatively, is just the risks that some of these guys take. It's breathtaking. It's fun to watch. I look back at when I was a kid, and besides the big stars I got into, some of the stars that I loved were the likes of Rey Mysterio and, like I said, Eddie Guerrero, and those guys just were so revolutionary with that cruiserweight division. And Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko. I think Dean Malenko is one of the criminally underrated workers of his generation and just period. I love Dean Malenko. I love me some Dean Malenko. Go check him out on the WWE Network. And yeah, I remember loving the cruiserweight division. I'm happy it's going to be back, but I think I just hope that these guys, especially Will Ospreay, who is said to already be having knee problems and feels like he needs to take less dates. No, you don't need to take less dates, dude. You need to tone it down a little bit. I just think they need to tone it down a little bit. Okay, I'm not saying you can't do spectacular stuff. I'm not an old curmudgeon and says, I don't like high flying. No, I like it. I like a lot of styles of wrestling. Just, I feel like some guys are taking a few too many risks to get the same pop that a guy maybe 15, 20 years ago would not have had to take in order to get that same pop. If that makes any sense. I know it's a more athletic style. I think the work rate's the strongest it's ever been in some ways, but I would like to see guys kind of maybe just tone it down a little bit. Not saying, don't do flips and whatever, just err a little bit on the side of caution, you know what I mean? And know your surroundings too, you know what I mean? Not every place is Madison Square Garden, not every place is Monday Night Raw. Not every event is WrestleMania. You know what I mean? You do a couple matches that they get you on the map, they get you on WWE's radar or New Japan's radar or whatever. And then you know what? When you get there, you can make it happen. But yeah, take it a little easy. That's all I'm saying. So I hope that answers your question. I don't have just one favorite wrestler, but Daniel Bryan, who appeared tonight, is certainly one of my all-time favorites. Who do you think will get the Cruiserweight title? And do you think it will be redesigned? T. Ray Jones, I don't really know who would get the Cruiserweight title. I would give it to somebody that has credibility. Probably, well, they could get credibility instantly with his in-ring work. There's a lot of talented guys in the Cruiserweight Classic, but I'd probably say Kota Ibushi. He's a little bit on the older side compared to the guys that they've signed before. He's in his mid-30s, not getting any younger. He had some injury issues over the years given his style, and he's got a bit of a shelf life, but he's still one of the best wrestlers in the world. I'd give him the Cruiserweight title. But I would, like I said before, with some of the other guys, do some human interest pieces, some video packages, kind of hyping him. English isn't his first language. I don't even think he really knows English, so it would be in their best interest to do some human interest stories on him. And do I think the Cruiserweight title will get a redesign? I hope so. I hope they bring it back the old WCW version. That version, to me, looked a hell of a lot better than the WWE version that Shane Helms and all those other guys had. Okay, let's see. I have a bad feeling Roman Reigns is going to win at Battleground. Do you agree? Well, he's still in the intro to Raw. He's still there at the end. He's still being hyped. He's still being put over in video packages. I am afraid that he's going to win. I hope he doesn't. I think it sends the wrong message, especially because, look, the guy ain't John Cena. Okay, he ain't John Cena. If he failed and he was drawing John Cena numbers, I could justify it from a business perspective. But you cannot even make a case for him from a business perspective. It'd be just a favoritism, bias perspective, and that's not cool with me. But yes, I do fear that. What old wrestlers will return for the draft? Kurt Hawkins is rumored to return, although I heard that he may have announced his retirement. Let me actually look that up. Although that could be a swerve, because he was pretty active on the indies recently, and he's wrestled a lot for his promotion, Wrestle Pro, and he's looked pretty damn good on the indies, I gotta say. I still have no idea why he carries the pimp cane. I still have no idea what the hell Kurt Hawkins' character is. I'm assuming he carries the cane and acts smug because that's what WWE fans remember him as. But I would love to actually see some, depth from his character. But in the ring, man, I've seen him in a few matches. I saw a match he had a couple years ago with Kevin Matthews, who's a good friend of his. And yeah, Kurt Hawkins can go in the ring. He's a damn good worker. That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, did Kurt Hawkins retire? Let me see here. Brian Myers. No, I thought I saw that online. They did. Okay. I don't see anything here. Maybe you mentioned something on Facebook. Who the hell knows? But it's rumored, according to Wrestling Observer, that he was one of the guys looked at. Jimmy Wang Yang, Carlito, Kurt Angle at one point, although it looks like WWE passed on him for now because of the Roman Reigns thing. Adam Rose with his domestic violence issues. And while Kurt Angle's been out of trouble for a couple years, maybe they think he's kind of a walking red flag still. Who knows? Who really knows? I mean, at the end of the day, until these dudes sign on the dotted line and actually come back and appear on TV, you never know. I remember actually 10 years ago, maybe a little less than 10 years ago, one of the Godwins and Flash Funk were actually re-signed to WWE, but they only appeared on house shows and in developmental. They never actually ended up appearing on TV. Maybe Flash Funk made some obscure appearance in a Battle Royal, but, mid-2000s was a weird time, and if they're signing some veterans and some that might be obscure names to current fans, I guess party like it's 2006, for better or worse. Okay. Who do you think is better on the mic, Stephanie or Shane? I think Stephanie is at this point. Shane used to be really good. He's still okay. But for whatever reason, he chooses to talk like this. And when he comes out, he's really orange. And I guess he's been using Randy Orton's tanning bed. And I guess he's been hanging out and drinking a lot with Ric Flair because he sweats a lot like Ric Flair. And it's kind of creepy. But Shane's still cool in a cool dad kind of way. All right. Would you keep the title on Dean? Yes, I would keep the title on Dean and then figure out what the hell you're going to do from there. Okay. JBL talked about being the longest reigning SmackDown champion in Cruiserweight history. Be honest, Fred. Did he have any good matches? Ooh, man. That's a loaded question. With the benefit of hindsight, JBL was actually one hell of a heel in terms of a character on SmackDown. The problem was he was a mid-carder for years and years and years and years. And he really didn't have any momentum. And he lost the match, I think it was to the Basham Brothers back in 2003 or 2004. And yes, I remember these obscure things, which is why I host a wrestling show, for better or worse. And he split up with Ron Simmons, who was his partner, Farouk. And he came out the next week, said he's John Bradshaw Layfield, and talked about how he's a great man. And I don't even remember the speech, but he cut a promo just talking about how he's gonna make SmackDown great, and now it's a new man, and now he's gonna help SmackDown become great, and all this jazz. And yeah, he won some Fugazi tournament, got a title shot against Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day, They had a hell of a match, mostly thanks to Eddie Guerrero, no offense to JBL. And Eddie Guerrero gigged badly. I mean, he was bleeding like a freaking, I don't know what a stuffed pig bleeds like. He was just bleeding. He was bleeding like a Game of Thrones death. It was that bad. Okay, I know it sounds morbid given what happened to Eddie Guerrero, but he was bleeding badly. I mean, I think he could almost died that night. I mean, he lost so much freaking blood. It was ridiculous. It may be the bloodiest match in WWE history. And he ended up taking out JBL. JBL won via DQ. They had a four corners match, a Texas Bull Rope match at Great American Bash, which JBL won. And that was also a pretty damn good match. But I remember hating that because I just couldn't believe that JBL of all Bradshaw, at the time that people still called him Bradshaw. Bradshaw wins the title? But he made the most out of it. He was maybe the lowest drawing champion in WWE history. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure he was the lowest drawing WWE champion in history as far as being WWE champion and the top guy, but he deserves credit for turning his career around and making the most out of it, and he still got a job today. So he did all right for himself, but the matches, not so great. Those Undertaker matches were slow and plodding. His match with Booker T at Survivor Series 2005 was okay. I'd say if I were you, seek out some of the angles. I don't know if they have the mid-2000s SmackDowns up yet, but maybe watch those. Maybe you go on YouTube and watch some of his skits. Those are pretty good. As far as matches goes, I'd say the Eddie Guerrero matches are really good. Personally, I like their steel cage match the best, which was on SmackDown. I think it was on... No, it wasn't on the... No, it was on Thursday Night SmackDown. Friday Night SmackDown also had a steel... The first ever Friday Night SmackDown also had a steel cage match, but it was Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. So, JBL, Eddie Guerrero, steel cage. That was very good. JBL, after he lost the title to John Cena... He had a last man standing match with John Cena at Judgment Day 2005. That was really good. And as far as just wacky matches that were kind of interesting, JBL, Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, and Undertaker Armageddon 2004. Not a great match or anything, but just kind of unique given all the characters involved. JBL versus Big Show and Angle at Royal Rumble 2005. Well, it was pretty good, too. So he had some okay matches, but he was kind of not done in the ring, but really slowing down. And even in his comeback, he really, really slowed down. I think if he had found his stride, if he had found that character maybe a couple of years before and kind of avoided some of the injuries that plagued him, I do think he would have been a stronger heel. I don't know if he would have really drawn on top anyway, but, I think he would have been a little bit better. You know what I mean? The in-ring work... not so great. Character-wise, he was great. Especially with benefit of hindsight, he was great. But in-ring-wise, not so much. But I'd say those are probably the best matches of JBL's title run. And you know what? It all worked out anyway because they got John Cena. And even though they had that down period for a little while, John Cena kind of took him out of the doldrums. And then SmackDown got Batista, and the rest is history. Okay. Do you think Trish Stratus will return? No, I don't. Outside of maybe a one-off. Bruce Taylor says Roman Reigns is the guy. Yes, because there's so much evidence that Roman Reigns is the guy. Terry Allen asked me about WWE 2K17, NXT edition. I already answered that. Okay. Con Hunter said Seth is the man. AJ Adams says he's coming to the New York area August 19th. That's cool. Maybe I'll meet up with him because I'll be attending some of the SummerSlam festivities. I don't think I'm going to go to SummerSlam or the Raw after just because those are going to be sold out, or they're already sold out and kind of crazy, and the tickets are marked up like crazy. But I'll most likely attend the Evolve show. I think ROH is doing something too. I'll attend that. If there's any other indies going on, I'll probably attend that. If there's any other SummerSlam festivities, I'll probably attend those. So I'll probably attend everything but WWE. And look, I already kind of had my WWE fill. I saw a WrestleMania caliber match with John Cena and AJ Styles at WWE MSG a month before SummerSlam, so I really have no complaints. Okay, let's see. Whatever happened to Mickie James? She's wrestling in the Indies and currently being the mother to Nick Magnus Aldis' child. They are now happily married, so good for them. Should the women's division be brand exclusive? No, it should not. There's like 8 women, maybe 6 active women right now on the main roster. Just call up a bunch of these girls, man. Call up Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss, but first and foremost, call up Bailey, and you could also call up Asuka as well. The other thing they didn't really specify is, are NXT champions eligible? It's going to be kind of weird if Joe and Nakamura are drafted, but they're also wrestling for the NXT title at SummerSlam weekend. I guess you could do a final stand, and whoever wins just vacates the title, and then you actually have an interesting storyline going into the fall for NXT with a bunch of newcomers, which I presume would probably be Cedric Alexander, if he's not called up right away, Kota Ibushi, if he's not called up right away, because you got the Cruiserweight division. Actually, now that Raw is going to have a Cruiserweight division, that makes things very interesting for NXT. You know, NXT is the third brand. They're doing okay in terms of drawing, but Raw hasn't been, well, in general, WWE, I should say, hasn't been drawing that well in live events. And even in MSG, it wasn't sold out. Like, all of section, 102 or whatnot was kind of empty outside of the first couple rows, which you don't usually see at a WWE show. Now, they run at MSG quite a bit, but still, they've always run at MSG quite a bit. I think most years they've done twice a year. I think this is one of the years where they're going to do 3 times a year, because I went to the one in March. I think it was March or April. It might have been April. Then I went to this one, and they're going to have one on December 26th, which is actually a Monday. So same time as Raw, which I would assume that would mean it's a SmackDown house show. So going to be interesting. I'm not saying they're going to kill the NXT brand. Obviously, NXT's become a hot commodity, and it's become a great proving ground. And it's definitely a nice launching pad for a lot of superstars. I don't think NXT is going to end, but it might have some growing pains. There's a lot of talent out there, but that I figured, okay, they'll just poach some more talent from ROH and New Japan and the Indies, and they'll sign a bunch of Cruiserweight Classic guys here, and they'll be fine. But the fact that the Cruiserweight division is now going to be on Raw, that changes everything. That really does. So I don't know what's going to happen with NXT. I mean, I guess you could bring in Roderick Strong. You can keep some people in NXT. Maybe you keep Asuka. Yeah, I mean, it's iffy. It's iffy. Because a lot of the dudes I'm thinking about that you keep in NXT for the time being are cruiserweights, or would be considered cruiserweights by WWE standards. I mean, maybe you bring in guys, from Evolve. Maybe you finally bring in Matt Riddle and get over the fact that a few years ago he failed for Pot. Okay, get over it. It's 2016. He made some mistakes. Okay, he effed up his MMA career. He's been doing great in pro wrestling. I would like to assume that he's matured. Everybody says he's maybe the best prospect in pro wrestling right now, as far as the guy given his experience level or lack thereof. You bring in a Matt Riddle. You bring in a bunch of other dudes. I mean, they can make it happen. At the same time, they need to be poaching Evolve, which is technically WWE's developmental partner. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent out there. But again, a lot of the talent that I expect in NXT would be considered cruiserweights. So, going to be interesting. But Raw is going to be, quote-unquote, only 3 hours. And you can only get so many guys over in one show. So, I guess that would leave NXT and main event and Superstars shows to pick up the slack. I'll say this. For all my worries, for all my complaints, at the very least, I think we could all say we are hella intrigued with WWE right now. And this is the most intrigued I think we've all been in quite a long time. Which female wrestler does WWE need to sign the most? I'm the wrong person to ask that. I don't watch enough Stardom. I mean, I've seen like a few clips here and there, and I try to keep up with women's wrestling on the indies and everything. I've heard good things about Stardom, but I don't know enough about it and some of the prospects there to say. Off the top of my head, as far as women I'm familiar with, in TNA and otherwise, who the hell is even in TNA anymore? I mean, Mia Yim I'd love to see, but I don't think they'd go for her. Gail Kim, but she's not in good terms with WWE. As far as anybody else, I mean, Cherry Bomb and Allison. I mean, really, Cherry Bomb, Allison Kay, in TNA, I'd be fine with them taking those girls and putting them in WWE. I think they'd fit in well. That girl in Decay, I don't know if she could really work, but she's quite unique, that's for sure. She's kind of got a unique appeal like Daphne. Actually Santana Guerra I'd like to see. I don't even remember what her name is in TNA. She had some weird name. I can't remember her name. Whatever. Santana Garrett. She was horrible in TNA in the ring. She was horrible when it came to acting. And all of a sudden, she gets out of TNA. She looks better than she's ever looked. Okay, physically and in the ring. And I'm just like, damn, what the hell happened? She's been really good. So I'd like to see Santana Garrett get a shot. I know she's done some NXT matches. Tessa Blanchard, she's got the pedigree. I think she's all right. I wouldn't say I'm blown away by her. She's very beautiful. But I don't know if I'm blown away by her work, per se. But, if you want to sign Ricochet next year, and, he's dating a girl that's got some potential and name value, why not sign her? I'm not saying you have to sign her to appease him, but if you really want Ricochet, do you think he's a great talent? And frankly, I do. Maybe you go after her. Rachel Ellering, daughter of Paul Ellering. She's a Lance Storm student. She's really good for her experience level. And when I say that, I mean she's not great or anything, but she's getting better. And for her experience level, she's pretty good. She's pretty good. And she's already done an NXT match. Actually, Diona, who's done a bunch of freaking matches in NXT and TNA and all over the place. I would sign her. Actually, why didn't I think of her before? Yeah, I would sign her. She's a New York, New Jersey girl. Give her a chance. She's been busting her ass, training under Rip Rogers. So those are the people that I would sign as far as women goes. As far as anybody from like Stardom and other promotions, not as familiar with them, so I'd have to do my research. But now, off the top of my head, that's who I'd sign. Will you play Watch Dogs 2? Yes, although I still got to play Watch Dogs 1. And, all right, we'll take a couple more, and then I'm going to get on out of here. All right. Who do you think is most likely to be a first-time world champion in WWE by the end of the year? Ooh. That's a really good question. Well, Roman Reigns Roman Reigns won it late 2015. And he was the first-time world champion. Then was Triple H. Then it was Roman again. Then Seth. I mean, we've already had one in Dean Ambrose. If I had to pick another, I'm going to go with the man whose catchphrase is, beat up John Cena. I'm going to go with my man, AJ Styles. And on that note, I think I'm going to get out of here. Let me just make sure that I don't have anything else that I missed. The G1 tournament's currently going on in New Japan. If you want to check it out, go to newjapanworld.com. I am not caught up for the most part. I mean, I know some of the results. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I'm not caught up. I got to make some time. Just been a busy last couple of weeks with UFC 200 and the UFC sale and work, and got some family over, and just, lot of stuff going on in my life. But yeah, I'll definitely have to catch up eventually. I think I'm just going to end up binge watching it. That's usually what I do. I tell myself I'm going to keep up weekly with New Japan and some of these other promotions, but just, it's tough, especially when you cover other sports and cover other stuff. And, I also have a video game channel, and it takes time to review video games. I'm not trying to get sympathy here. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm just saying it's just, my time is spread very thin, and between work and advertising as well. Yeah, it's I've enough trouble just making time to for myself and just kind of chill. So I'll eventually get to it. Oh, one more thing. WWE is being sued by former wrestlers for head injuries, which I'm not trying to crap on their cause, but according to Bloomberg.com, the suit lists the likes of Jimmy Snuka, who his lawyers claimed wasn't mentally fit to stand trial for murder that he most likely committed, but he can get himself booked for WrestleCon, which, shame on WrestleCon, by the way, for booking a WrestleMania weekend. Just a tasteless, gutless act on their part. It's not like he's going to make a damn difference when it comes to your bottom line. And unless you're some sick freak that just wants an autograph from some wife beater, scumbag. Road Warrior Animal and King Kong Bundy. And there's a few other wrestlers on here. Let's see. This is Kurt. By the way, shout out to Chris Harrington with this list. Mark Jindrak, Axel Rotten's estate, which I find hilarious. Well, not hilarious. Hilarious in a morbid way, because this dude wrestled in WWE for a cup of coffee and took a ton of chair shots in ECW and on the Indies. All right, that had nothing to do with WWE. John Heidenreich, Jesus, the Hebner brothers, Chavo Guerrero Jr. Well, he burned his bridge with WWE. Not smart on his part. I hope those Lucha Underground paychecks are cashing in and lucrative, man, because that's not smart on your part, dude. One-man gang, Slick, Outlaw Ron Bass, Rodney Mack. Now, Rodney Mack's a guy who was actually quoted in a recent article. I don't recall where. It might have been, I think it was New York Times. I could be wrong, but it was an article. Actually, no, I think it was the Boston Globe. It was a recent article that talked about how Chris Nowinski, who's head of the Legacy Sports Institute, who researches, concussions, the former wrestler and everything, is a little too cozy and in bed with WWE, especially because Triple H is on the board of directors. I think so too. I think he's a little too comfy with them. That's not to say WWE's not taking precautions with concussions, but it's interesting because Rodney Mack was quoted in that article and talked about having really bad headaches. And yeah, we just saw a social media post a couple days ago. Val Venus talking about how he took a hard chair shot to the head by Triple H, and he didn't really blame Triple H. He just said, look, crap happens in wrestling, and, I thought I was invincible, and that was a moment where, I really suffered concussion side effects, and, I didn't tell anybody, and kind of went along with it, but he essentially said it kind of made him feel mortal. You know what I mean? When you're wrestling, and you feel fine, you feel great, and, you take some bumps here and there, but, you feel invincible out there, adrenaline's pumping, and then boom, reality crashes down, and that was his wake-up call with reality, but I don't see his name on this lawsuit, so it doesn't look like that's happening. Bobby Billiard. That's an interesting one. She was this hot model that was recruited by John Laurinaitis, and she injured her neck in developmental and never made the main roster, and I don't think really wrestled again after that. So she may have some type of valid complaint if her medical bills weren't paid. Looking here, Henry Godwin, Butch Reed, Jazz, who's Rodney Mack's wife, Sylvain Grenier, the last time I checked was doing okay. Shane Douglas, he's always in the mix. Muhammad Hassan. Yeah, Mike Enos. Did Mike Enos even wrestle for WWE? I know he wrestled for WCW. Yeah, I think for every couple of dudes I see on here that have a legitimate claim, or may have some semblance of a legitimate claim, the rest I see just, to me, kind of scream fugazi. That's not to dismiss wrestlers' claims. So listen, the risks. If there's evidence that WWE did hide data, kind of like the NFL, then okay, they should be prosecuted or, punished or whatever. I don't know, fined, whatever you want to say. But it's tough to prove. And again, it's one thing if you had just a bunch of former WWE guys, at least you could say, all right, they were in WWE for a while. Like Muhammad Hassan was in the WWE system for a couple of years, maybe 3 years if you count OVW, but Axel Rotten's estate? I mean, I know this lawyer just wants as many wrestlers as possible, but that looks kind of bad when you have guys that you could kind of poke holes through their argument with. Okay. And I guess that's about it. All right, well, I'm going to head out, guys. I'm sure we're going to have more news to talk about on Tuesday night, and I will be going live right after SmackDown Live, Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TSC News, youtube.com/The Sports Courier. You can also check out our podcast on soundcloud.com/TSC News and now on iTunes. So if you'd love to listen to us in audio form, please hop on iTunes or SoundCloud, follow us. Feel free to rate our podcast. We'd appreciate it. But if you had a chance to check out this video, if you've sat through this long, we greatly appreciate it. And we would love it if you would click the like button, share this with all your friends, spread the good word. If there's a question that I did not get to answer, if there's a comment you would like me to read, a shout out, whatever, feel free to leave a comment below after this broadcast ends. I will get to you. I could also shout you guys out during the SmackDown recap as well. You can also hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/The Sports Courier, Twitter @Fred Richani, @Sports Courier, Instagram @TSC News. You can also email me, fred@thesportscourier.com, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer live on the air during the mailbag section. But folks, thank you so much. It's been a while since I've done some of these long live Raw recaps. Felt good. And gonna definitely be interesting for SmackDown. So please, again, take care, like and share. And until next time, everybody, as always, enjoy the matches. And don't forget to subscribe for more WWE updates.